Inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
All right, it's Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa, and that means one thing around here. Tider Insider TV. Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and Rodney, I'm going to say this right off the top here. We can't ever seem to get football weather during football season anymore. So we're going to get it for A-Day. It's going to be like 62. The rain's going to be out of here, so it's going to be cool and crisp. So if you can't get it in October, we'll take it in April, right?
Well, you know, definitely. You remember last A-Day, really bad weather, threats of tornadoes and storms and all of those things. So certainly would be good to have that weather.
Going to be rain overnight, but we think it's going to get out of here. And because we are just 4 days away from the Crimson Tide's spring game at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and there is a lot of anticipation surrounding this team. There is every year, but really probably more questions to be answered for this football team than any in recent memory. Rodney, let's get to the scrimmage that they had this past Saturday, scrimmage number 2. Now, we were not allowed to be there at the scrimmage, so this is video from today's practice, but we will have the scrimmage recap for you. This is from the Thomas Drew Fields. The scrimmage Saturday, scrimmage number 2 of spring was at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And Rodney, after the first scrimmage, Coach Saban was, well, I'll just say it, he praised the offense. He praised the Tommy Rees. He talked about how well the quarterbacks played. Maybe not the case this past Saturday. Turnovers, something that he has really adamantly discussed this spring about we have to not turn the ball over. Both quarterbacks had their share, Rod, and because of that, when you turn it over on offense, that's going to put a damper on anything else that you do on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think one thing, too, Gary, is you think about the scrimmage a little more in-depth and as time goes by. Look, a lot of these scrimmages are sloppy. These things happen. You have turnovers. You have penalties. This is spring. I mean, this is a time when things happen. Certainly you want to, you want to execute extremely well. But let's not, get too over dramatic about what actually happened. I mean, again, sometimes these things happen. You're right, though. The quarterback struggled. Milroe had a couple of interceptions. Ty Simpson had a couple of interceptions. But, hey, it's like Nick Saban said. When you make those mistakes against yourself, it's also good for the defense. I mean, the defense played a lot better in this scrimmage.
Yeah, that's the flip side. That's the thing about turnovers. Coach Saban will talk about it here in a few on Coach Talk. When you're scrimmaging against yourself, it's kind of two sides of the coin. It's a negative for the offense, but it's a positive for the defense. All right, I do want to ask you about the offensive line because we know that last year's offensive line was not bad, but it wasn't, I think, up to the standard that Alabama holds for its offensive line play. They brought in some new players. They've got a lot of size, big, athletic-looking guys, and it appears, again, we don't get to go to any practices, but from what we're hearing, that the offensive line is making progress under Eric Wolford.
Yeah, I think it really has a chance to be the best offensive line since that 2020 group, which was an all-time offensive line. I mean, I think Eric Wolford really needed some guys on the interior with more size, more power. I think with what they want to do offensively, be able to establish the run, establish the line of scrimmage, kind of control that again. Listen, I think this offensive line has a lot of potential. But not only that, Gary, I know you're going to talk about the running backs. Those guys are a special group.
Yeah, we're going there now, and then we're going to get back to the quarterbacks. But the running back room, I said it last week, Alabama's had some of the best running back rooms in the history of college football since Nick Saban's been here. They got another one. Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, Jam Miller, Justice Haynes, Richard Young's coming in this summer, and Justice Haynes is just a true freshman out of that Buford, Georgia powerhouse. Ronnie, he's turning heads.
He really is. I mean, I think he and Jam Miller got the bulk of the carries in this scrimmage. Both of those guys. Jam Miller, the sophomore out of Tyler, Texas, he really had a big day, had a 80-plus yard run near the end of the scrimmage, Gary. And I tell you, since he's got here, Justice Haynes in December, right after the right when the bowl practices began, he's been turning heads. So this is a really good quartet of running backs to go with Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. I think it's going to be a focal point for this team next season.
All right, obviously Saturday, the fans can't wait to see the quarterbacks. We can't wait to see the quarterbacks. Both Milroe and Simpson, also the true freshmen, Holstein and Lonergan as well. Rodney, of course, many fans are going to want to know coming out of spring where the quarterbacks stand in terms of the rotation and the order. I'm not sure that Nick Saban's going to answer that question after the scrimmage on Saturday.
No, he's not. And you know, I don't foresee that at all. But I don't think we'll know till Monday, leading into the Middle Tennessee State game, probably, who's going to be the starting quarterback. But, you know, listen, I think both of them, it's fair to say they both had some ups and they both had some downs. It's inconsistency. But again, it's kind of what you would expect with young quarterbacks really going through a spring practice with a new offensive coordinator. I think some of these things are expected, but the good news is they're both very talented. They both have a lot of potential.
All right, we've already mentioned Justice Haynes, another freshman to watch from the state of Georgia on defense. Caleb Downs, who is going to be a terrific player safety. Some other guys maybe that are new or haven't played a lot in the past that you think the fans should keep an eye out for on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've mentioned Malik Benson quite a bit. You know, the wide receiver, I think he's got a chance to make a really big impact there. I think he's got some special tools. So certainly he would be one. I think, you know, when you look at the offensive line, they're probably going to have a few new guys there. Obviously, Tyler Booker started, I think, at the end of the year, a game or two. I think he's got a chance to be really, really good at one of the offensive guard spots. And I think Elijah Pritchett's going to be real interesting to watch at the left tackle spot. And then when you're talking about defensively, you know, I really think Justin Aboybe, even though he's been around a while, that injury last year when he started off so well, I think now he's going to bounce back at that defensive line spot. He may be the leader up front defensively. And I think Trez Marshall, the junior college, the Georgia transfer, who is a guy that really would have had a good career at Georgia if it not had been for injuries. So I think he's going to solidify there. And there's a lot of other players, Gary, that we could talk about. Jahad Campbell at inside linebacker, Justin Jefferson. And in the secondary, you mentioned it. I think Earl Little Jr. At the star position, although he does play some corner, I'd say listen out for that name. And you mentioned it, Caleb Downs. I think that's the guy that has a chance to be a household name very, very soon.
Yeah, he's super, super talented. All right, Rod, as we discussed earlier, it's now time for Coach Talk. And, you know, for the scrimmage number 2, there were turnovers. And as bad as that is for the offense, you know, it's that good for the defense, you know. So it's kind of, like I said earlier, it's 50 cents one way, 50 cents the other, but you'd rather have the 50-cent piece that had less turnovers on offense probably than on the defensive side, even though they force some. You don't want to turn it over if you're an offense. Still, though, Nick Saban says, you got to secure the ball. At the same time, it's good for the defense to force those turnovers.
You know, we're preaching ball security to the offense. So if we gave up the ball, then it's good for the defense, bad for the offense. So ball security becomes an issue that we have to focus on, whether we're throwing it, whether we're catching it, whether we're running with it, whatever it is. And, we just got to keep working on it. I mean, we do turnover drills every day. So, we'll just keep on working at it.
Later at Saturday's press conference, Coach Saban said he believes Jalen Milroe is making progress in terms of ball security. Milroe is the only quarterback that's played in a game. He played against Arkansas and he started against Texas A&M last season. And Alabama beat A&M, but he turned it over a couple times in that game and really almost cost the Tide a chance at victory. So that's something, again, Rodney, regardless of who the quarterback is, whether it's Milroe, Simpson, or maybe one of the true freshmen, Lonergan or Holstein come out of nowhere and win the job. Nick Saban is going to want them to take care of the football.
Yeah, he is. And look, I think that they'll put them in really good situations. Again, we're talking about the spring, Gary. They don't game plan. They're not play calling for a game. So it's a lot different. I think when they build around the quarterbacks, I think the quarterbacks will be a lot more comfortable as you start to move along. They'll protect the ball. And look, again, I say this. Is quarterback a question? Yeah, I think it certainly is. But I also think these guys have a lot of talent, and I think August camp will be really interesting. And let me say this. We're talking about the quarterback battle. It's as close as it can get. So people talking about one of them jumping in the portal, I thought it was a possibility. I now see where this thing is so close. Why would anyone transfer?
Yeah, they want to hang in and compete. All right, portal news now. And Alabama's tight end room looks like it's going to have much more depth. Maybe Elijah Brown saw the handwriting on the wall. He was redshirted last year in 2022 after coming out of Dayton, Ohio as a really top prospect, a 4-star by 247 Sports Composite, 6'5", 230. Didn't play at all last season, though, Rod. And is this a situation where just, the handwriting was kind of on on the wall in regards to playing time?
You know, I was on your radio show Monday, and we talked about the tight ends, and we named about 5, and Elijah Brown wasn't one of them. And again, it's not that he's a bad player. It's just when you have guys like C.J. Dupree, Amari Nyblack, Miles Kitzelman, Robbie Oots, Danny Lewis, go on and on and on. I mean, you know, sometimes the handwriting's on the wall.
Well, good luck to that young man for sure. All right, now to some basketball. As we previously reported, and it's now official, Alabama men's basketball head coach Nate Oates announcing the hiring of Austin Klontz as the newest men's basketball assistant coach today. Klontz comes to Tuscaloosa after spending 5 years at Nicholls State, or 7 years at Nicholls State, 7 seasons, 5 as the head coach. Did a great job. Also, New Orleans Pelicans assistant Ryan Pannone will reportedly fill another one of those assistant coach vacancies. It's not official yet, but he was the head coach of the team's Pelicans G League squad in Birmingham, the Birmingham Squadron. He runs a system very familiar to what Coach Oates runs. He's also coached at junior college in Alabama, so it looks like he's going to be joining the staff as well. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama lands 2 commits, one for 2024 and the other for 2025. Also, former Crimson Tide quarterback Jalen Hurts just negotiated a history-making contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll have the details coming up. Plus, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the one, the only, Tider Insider Television. We'll come back after this. Welcome back to TITV on WVUA 23 with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Tider Insider is brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. All right, let's get to recruiting, because there are going to be plenty of prospects on campus this weekend for the 8A game. It's going to be buzzing, but it's been like that for a while now. And Alabama picking up a couple of commits since we were with you last. Alabama football added another prospect to the 2024 class. Rico Scott is a 6-foot, 185-pound wide receiver out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Bishop McDevitt High School. He is the number 55 wide receiver in the 2024 recruiting class, number 11 player in the state of Pennsylvania. Alabama hasn't signed a Pennsylvania wide receiver since Robert Foster. Now, this is a guy that I tell you, some people say maybe a little bit like John Mechie. You know, physically strong kid and not a burner by any means, but catches the football, had a lot of offers, Rodney, and is a guy that, again, you want speed to take the lid off, you know, the top. Take the top off, go downfield, but you need guys that are going to catch the ball, be possession guys for you too.
Well, I think when I looked at Rico Scott, his film on Sunday, first thing I thought was John Mechie in terms of the physical nature of his play. I think he's, you know, he reminds me of that. He's not really big necessarily, but he's very physical. You see his size in terms of his speed there. You see, you know, he makes big plays. So, I mean, he has all the tools that I think, you know, you look for in a wide receiver right now. And, you know, the key thing, Gary, is if you're a receiver, you've got to be able to catch the ball. And
he can. And it's clear Alabama likes him a lot, because they're not going to take a ton of receivers in this class, I don't think, based on what they've done in past recruiting classes. And for them to go ahead and take his commitment tells you they like him a lot.
Yeah, he and Perry Thompson's already committed. Perry Thompson, a really top-notch player at Foley, and a guy that's big, physical himself. So I think this is a good duo right now. And when you think about the quarterback they have committed, 5-star quarterback, Julian Sayin out of the state of California, they're putting together a pretty good class already. Indeed
they are. In 2025, Bama just keeps on rolling along there. Dontrell Glover, the second offensive line prospect from 2025 to commit to Alabama. Also, the other one was a Georgia guy as well. So here he plays for Langston Hughes High School in Fairburn, 6'3", 290. Another guy that had a lot of offers. But Alabama continues to go into Georgia and recruit well against Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, 2025 offensive linemen committed within the past couple of weeks. Mason Short, of course, was the first one. Guy that was highly recruited by Georgia. And, you know, Georgia thought they had him locked up, and he commits to Alabama. And now Dontrell Glover, you know, Gary, Alabama had a great offensive line class this past year. Looks like they're already starting to have a good one for 2025.
Well, you know, Rod, all these guys that sign with Alabama, they want to win, play for and win championships here, and then ultimately they want to get to the NFL. And nobody's done that better than Nick Saban at turning guys out. And a lot of these guys have done really, really well. And Jalen Hurts, we know his story. It's been unique in the annals of college football to be a 2-year starter at Alabama, start as a true freshman, lose your job to Tua, stick around for a year as a backup, then go to Oklahoma, finish second in the Heisman voting, become a second-round pick with the Eagles. People thought he'd be more of a project. Rodney, he took over as a full-time starter in his second year. In his third year, he was an MVP candidate and took the Eagles all the way to the Super Bowl. And now he's agreed to a 5-year extension worth $255 million, $179 million plus guaranteed. He's still just 24 years old. So he'll only be 29 when this contract's over. So the Eagles want to go ahead and invest in him now, have their quarterback not just for the future but for right now as well. And it's a great story for Jalen.
Yeah, the last 8 months been really good for him because, look, they didn't know if he was going to be around in 2024 to be their quarterback. He has the big year. The Eagles have the big year. They've got the best team, in my opinion, in the NFL, so they should be really good for years to come. So this is big for them to lock him up. But it's also, Gary, when you look around the NFL, some of these other quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, this is good for them.
Oh, it's good for all of them.
Because it's going to open the door for them to sign huge contracts as well.
It's a quarterback-driven league. One thing I will ask you, of course, he seems like he's just immune to stress and pressure, but now Philadelphia's a tough sports town. You know that. It's one thing when you're making, $1 million something a year. You start making $55 million a year. They're going to turn the heat up in a hurry if he doesn't play well.
Well, Philadelphia is certainly one of the most difficult places to play. You're right, Gary. But here's the thing. It's not all about the quarterback. We watched that. That was a team. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts was the benefactor of a great team around him. He managed it extremely well. He orchestrates what they have. They have a great offensive line. They have great running backs. They have a great system that fits him really well. They have great receivers, and they have had a really good defense. Now, they're going to have a lot of transition on defense, but I think as the team as a whole, the way it's built, they've done a really good job, so I think they're going to continue to have a lot of success.
Yeah, I said $55 million a year. It's actually $51 million a year. $4 million here or there. If you're keeping count, it's a lot of money. That's for sure. All right, still to come on TITV. Alabama wins its first SEC series this past weekend, and it gets the Auburn Tigers, which made it even better. And up next, we'll get to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-9882. Let us hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. Pick Rodney's brain about what he is looking for in this A-Day game. I know I have a little bit, but you may have some questions as well. Give us a call. We'll also get to some emails when we return to Tider Insider TV right here on WVUA 23. Well, Bama baseball really needed an SEC series win, and it's even sweeter that they got it against Auburn, especially after they lost the Friday night game. But I tell you what, Garrett McMillan is back, the Hillcrest standout, and on Saturday, boy, he pitched a doozy, and then Alabama won on Sunday, so they dropped the opener, but they get 2 out of 3, and they really, really needed it. Plus, it's just a double whammy that it was in-state rival Auburn that they got the victory against. Welcome back into TITV. Let's get right out to the phones because we're running a little short of time. Putty leads us off over in Alabaster tonight. Putty, how are you?
Doing good, Gary. How are you, Rodney?
Doing well.
I've been a Tider Insider fan since the late 80s when I picked up my first magazine. Really happy about this program.
Thanks.
Can y'all tell me who else besides the Georgia linebacker and the Maryland tight end that Alabama might be looking at in the transfer portal?
You know what? That's a great question. Look, I think after spring practice, after this A-Day game, we may hear a lot more because I'm not really sure that we've really had an influx of the top prospects that will enter the portal, guys that want to transfer. I think you still have some spring games besides Alabama's, obviously, going on this weekend. So I think after that, Gary, you'll see more guys jump in the portal. Will there be someone that jumps in the portal that Alabama has a lot of interest in? We'll see.
All right, let's get to BT right here in Tuscaloosa pretty quickly. Hey, BT.
Hey, GH and Ronnie, how y'all doing?
Doing great, BT.
What I want to ask Rodney and Gary that what different offense we're going to see this year? That's
Tommy Reese. All right, BT. Yeah, I can answer that, and Rodney, real quickly, you can add it. They want to be balanced. I think they want a more physical approach in the run game. Still want to play action. They want to get the ball down the field as a passing team as well. But I think that that's a term people throw around. But I do really think Tommy Reese wants to be balanced and he wants to be physical.
Yeah, that's a good summary. And I think too, new wrinkle here, new wrinkle there. I'm understanding that maybe Gary a little more misdirection in the run game. So. Really looking forward to seeing it.
All right, thanks, Putty and BT. We'll be back with our email question of the day next, right here on TITV. And if we could squeeze another phone call, we will as well. There's the number. Montana Fouts, Rodney's a rock star everywhere. You take her home, And look at this. I mean, this was like Elvis and the Beatles, man. Montana Fouts grew up in Grayson, Kentucky, about 28 miles from Huntington, West Virginia. Alabama went up there to play a doubleheader. Unfortunately, they lost to Liberty 5-3, but they did beat Marshall, the home team, 3-1, so they get to split, and a lot of people were happy. It was an overflow crowd, Roddy.
Wow.
It shattered any softball record in the state of West Virginia. Alabama softball, Montana Fouts, they are celebrities. Welcome back into the program. It's time to get to our email question of the day. And the email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Services. KDM Services, serving your family like our family when it comes to heating and air conditioning. KDM Services. Rodney, it's a good question. Is it true that Talia may come back to Alabama? You were talking about the portal. There's been some buzz about Alabama maybe looking to get a quarterback out of the portal. Could Talia Tagovailoa be coming back?
Wouldn't that be something?
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people at Thompson High School up there that would love to see Talia come back. But you know what? I really haven't heard anything. I know someone posted that on the internet that it may be a possibility, but I haven't heard that.
I've only seen it as speculate too. Like I said, anything in the portal era is possible. I hate calling him Little Tua, but Talia is a fine quarterback. And, you know, Alabama will do its due diligence is all I know on all of these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The ones on the roster and ones in the portal. Remember, he's not in the portal right now. He may be happy with Mike Loxley and Maryland. Let's get to one more quick email, Rodney. What does Zach Mettenberger do at Alabama, the former Georgia and LSU quarterback? That's from Audrey in Vestavia. We know he's an offensive analyst, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think certainly having him around, Gary, having someone that's been a quarterback, you know, he's very helpful in terms of, you know, when you start to evaluate, analyze what you're doing offensively, the quarterbacks, all of those things, having someone like that I think is really valuable.
All right, we'll be back to wrap it up right after this. All right, man, we were jam-packed tonight, Rob, but we got a lot of information in, and that is going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism Sports. Remember, a replay tonight at 10:30 on WVUA 23, or you can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you with Jenny Mines, the 26-year women's soccer coach at Alabama, her final home match on this past Sunday against South Carolina. They're not done. They go to the SEC tournament in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and hopefully into an NCAA regional. But Jenny Mines is a class act. She's a great coach, and congratulations to her on a terrific career. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV. Good night, everybody.